I'll tell you just a little bit about how I reached our topic today, or Marty and I had some discussions, but part of why she said it's almost kind of funny. Part of why she asked me to have this talk is because of my life experience professionally. And I think one of my girlfriends here, Karen Walker, she said it best to me earlier this week. She said, Alisa, when you arrive at an organization, it is about to change. It is usually in crisis, and there is a problem. And once you either have found the issue, you guys get to the core of it, or the change is made, you're gone. You need to get used to that. Now, how long have I been working? 15 plus years experience, but I still struggle with this whole process, this whole concept. And I will tell you that courageous leadership is the only way to navigate those kinds of waters. I know many of you lead organizations, and there are issues big and small. There are personal victories and failures, big and small. So we're just going to kind of talk about walking through those things. And I know you all have walked through many of them. You do it over and over again as long as you're working, in every group you're working with, big or small. And even some of the things that we're going to talk about, I mean, they actually even happen in our house, because it's really the art of negotiation is the bottom line. It's really about negotiating and navigating. So just kind of want to again, I'll frame it up. I'm sorry, next slide.
Yeah, got it.
Can I, you got it? You got it? Okay, perfect. I just want to frame it up just to talk about courage, because it's why we're talking about courageous leadership. Honestly, to navigate the waters that you all are in, you really do need to be courageous. And I know you are, but I just want you to see who you really are. And that is, you're defined as someone with a mental or moral strength. That's who you are. And you venture the person. It's how you work. It's what you do. This is your DNA. So this is the affirmation before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, because we're going to talk a little bit about what happened and what went wrong. And courage implies firmness of mind and a will to face danger or extreme difficulty. You all do it. That is your lifestyle. So congratulations to you. Next slide. I should go there too. Courageous leadership is really, and you guys do this too, it's really being able to face danger and fear without hesitation. You have to go into the darkness. You have to do the difficult work. And doing that, sometimes it gets messy and it comes at a personal cost. And sometimes you're not even sure you're going to come out of it, but it doesn't mean you don't get the opportunity not to do it. You really have to be on the right side of things, even if some of the information you're getting back says, we really shouldn't be in that posture. But if you know and you're on mission, you have to stay the course. But in that process, you often get battered and bruised. That's just how it is. Next slide. So a couple of things, just some things to think about, and I think as we've heard, I've had the pleasure of walking with a couple of leaders through MDI, and some of the things that we've heard about, just basically when people attack your decisions, you're basically charged with leading, casting the vision, setting the way forward with, of course, collaboration from the team with buy-in, the board, your staff, but sometimes as the leader, you have to make a decision, and that isn't always popular. And so sometimes you do face attacks. What do? The board wants to move in a different direction. You got the strategic plan, you laid it out, you went through 2-3 days making this strategic plan. Mission, we've been working on a strategic plan for over a year. We've got goals, we've got objectives, we've got plans, and then, no, we're going to do something different. What do you do in that moment? How do you survive that moment? There are internal conflicts, because even in the process of executing all those plans and just working, period, we are human and we are people and we bump into each other. So even in that process, and everybody is crucial to achieving the goal, so it's really important to know even how to deal with those internal conflicts. And then you've got folks, I love to talk about it, working while retired. Those people who just, you're praying, you're like, God, can you please motivate them to go home? Because they haven't contributed in such a very long time. I know it, you know it, can you tell them? How do you navigate that? And then finally, but probably most importantly, and this is where I want to spend more time, and I say this when we blow it. When we blow it. And I can tell you, I got a bunch of stories about me blowing it. I'm gonna try not to tell all my business, but I will be an example if it helps everybody feel more normal. But there are moments where we'll blow it. So a couple of things. When you're at this point, when you're facing a difficult situation, a couple of suggestions about things you can do. The first one is analyze the accusation of the opposition. What's being stated? My natural inclination, God pray for me, here's the truth. The natural inclination is to defend my heel. I'm on the heel, I'm going to defend it. That is not the right posture to be in. Analyze the opposition. What's the information coming over the wire? Assess the opposition. Go deeper. Now I've heard it, open my ears, hear, don't immediately get defensive. Now, as I'm assessing the opposition, I need to ask more questions. I need to figure out what's afoot, what's really happening, what's going on. Then next, and it's not a minor thing, seek the wisdom of the wise. When I tell you there are folks in this room who are on speed dial for me, because when I'm facing something, I call them because they can help me navigate that water. We're going to talk about what I call a personal board of advisors. You know, you've got a board, most boards have board of advisors. I think as an individual, you need to have a personal board of advisors, people you call who are for you, with you, can help you navigate. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, there will be these moments and there will be these times when you just have to stand firm and stay the course. And it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be popular. You are going to get battered and bruised. But that's when you dig in and you put your face to the wall and you seek the King only. Because if he gave you a message and a charge, you can't get off it. So those are what we're going to talk. Those are basically the key steps we're going to talk about today. The first one, analyze the accusation of the opposition. Avoid digging in without first assessing the merit of the accusation. Is there any truth to it? And I mean, that sounds cliche and coy, but I promise you, think about it. You just think for a minute about the last time you might have even been in a conflict with somebody in a moment. You know, again, defending yourself is almost a natural inclination. So analyze what's coming over the wire. And if there is truth in it, big or small, take responsibility. One of my team members is here. We had the honor, well actually I've had the pleasure of working two ladies in this room. And what they can tell you is, I might defend, but when it's me, own it. And I didn't learn, that wasn't an immediate quality in my leadership when I first started working. But as God has matured me and I've become more secure in who I am and whose I am, hey, I'm human. That one thing, taking responsibility, I have seen it literally change the whole mood in the room. Mm-hmm. Just to raise my hand and say, hey, I blew it. We had this fundraiser and we had all had tasks and we all had things to do. And it couldn't have gone more wrong. It couldn't have gone more wrong in every way. At the end of the day, I'm the leader. So guess what? I blew it. I didn't help my team. I didn't follow up enough. I didn't ensure that they had what they needed. And I wanted to do a post-mortem. But before I began that process, the first thing I said was, I'll let you guys down. I blew it. Now we're sitting here in the ashes. And we're probably going to get in trouble. So let's figure out, let's at least have an answer about what we did and what we're going to do in the future to correct the problem. And I saw everybody, because they saw it on the agenda, you know, everybody's holding their table. I saw arms folded, people kind of going in, because they knew when we got to it, it was going to be hot. But as soon as I owned it, they were like, okay, so look, let me tell you, me too, because I was supposed to take that and I didn't. I mean, immediately, everybody felt the ability to be honest, to be vulnerable. The leader must be vulnerable. The leader must be honest. It's part of your core. You know you're supposed to have integrity. Don't lose sight of that. Just own it. And then most importantly, big or small, forgive yourself. Some, you know, that was small, innocent. We got in trouble. We got yelled at, you know, but like at the end of the day, none of us got fired. But some things are big. Some things are going to walk you to the door for. And you may spend a lot of time beating yourself up over about it. But let me just tell you something. No matter what you think about that moment, And you do have to analyze it, you do have to process it, you do have to figure out what you need to go forward. But most importantly, A, the king knew it was going to happen. And B, he's got a purpose in it. He's got something for you. My most difficult task, and most of the courageous leaders I know, they are their own worst critics. They are harder on themselves than anybody else. I had one boss say, Alisa, I'm not even going to talk to you about it because I know you're beating yourself up about it. I'm just going to go on. You know what happened. But I'm going to tell you, let's move on. Let's get moving. Let's go forward. When we spend a lot of time in the dirt, not forgiving ourselves, beating ourselves up, we lose time, we lose traction, and people, I know the work most of you do in here, the world is waiting for you. You don't have time for that. Get up, get going, get back on it. Pray, ask God for forgiveness, ask yourself for forgiveness. Know the Lord has already forgiven you as soon as it's done, and move forward. Don't waste time there. You cannot. And if it's really deep, and if you need a whole lot, if you need something else in that process, then again, that personal board of advisors, go to them. There may be some things that have accountability now. Get an action plan for yourself. You love to do an action plan for the team, do one for yourself. At the end of the day, really, if it's serious, get an action plan for yourself. And use your board of advisors to help you. And let those folks hold you accountable. But move forward, get going, because you got stuff. Perfect example. Now this is a big blow. Y'all, everybody, who knows who Chuck Colson is? Yeah, everybody does, right? Because actually, his second story, man, we know it because we love Jesus and we know what he's done for the gospel. But if you had just looked at his first half, and if he had stopped at the first half, if he, after coming out of prison, had given up on himself, he says, I've risen all the way to the level of the White House, and then I get up there and I blow it and I end up locked up. If he had said, I am an ultimate and complete failure, what would have happened? What might have been missed? Don't spend time killing yourself and beating yourself, and just know the king knows he's got a great plan for you. Chuck said himself, he said, my real legacy in my life is my biggest failure. He knows most of the people, we're kingdom people, so we're going to talk the positive stuff. I don't know about you, but I've been enough places and I've had enough messes. There are people still talking trash about me. That's okay, because I know, and the king knows, what really happened, and that's all that matters. So just like Chuck, he's like, I acknowledge it. People talk about the fact that I'm an ex-felon. Some people probably wouldn't even want to let him into a prison merely because he's an ex-felon. It doesn't matter what God did in his life. I work in prison industry, that's why I can make that comment. It was his greatest humiliation. Man, I have got some things, I swear, there are moments and places and audiences where I want to put a bag on my head because I really did blow it. It really was me. There's no excuse for it. I had to get a personal board of advisors to hold me accountable. It was bad. And there are those moments too. But no matter what, he got up, and look what happened. He said it was the greatest thing God ever did for him, because but for that, he wouldn't have even met Christ. One of his friends gave him mere Christianity, changed his life. And he went on, he has had, I think about folks like Billy Graham, Chuck Colson. When you talk about an impact for the kingdom, generation after generation, multiplication, and you think this is a guy who was once in prison, don't tell me God can't do stuff with broken people, because I'm one of them. But this guy changed a lot of people's lives, both domestically and internationally. Get up out of the dirt. That's all I'm going to say about it, okay? I'm done. But it's important. It is important. Assessing the opposition. This is probably the most important piece right here. And it sounds a little, it may have a negative connotation. As I looked at my notes, I thought maybe I shouldn't quite said it that way. So let me give you a more clear perspective about what I'm saying. Understand what is being stated, what the issue is. I can tell you this too, at least from personal experience, and I may be the only person that immature in this room. Most of the time when there's conflict, it feels personal. Am I the only one? Show of hands, help me y'all. Thank you. Okay, great. Somebody's here with me. Most of the time it feels personal, particularly depending on how the attack comes. If it's words about you, if it's hot, if it comes in hot, it comes in fast, it can feel very personal. 99.9% of the time, it is not personal. And if I'm in my right place, if I have spent God before I went in, if I spent time with the Lord before I've gone into work, if I pray before I've gone into that interaction, if I'm in my right place with the King, I usually can see. And you probably can too, if you're in the right posture. So you really have to, this is almost like a negotiate. This really is about negotiations, because you've got to understand what's at play and figure out how to move the team forward in spite of what the opposition is. But the only way you can do that is get to the root cause. So the first couple of things you want to ask is misinformation circulating or misunderstanding, like what's going on. If you think, this isn't me, this is something else, or I'm not wrong, I don't have to take responsibility, what's afoot? Start asking some questions. Is it misinformation? Is it misunderstanding? Or is it something more, like there's another interest afoot that you don't know about? Is there something else going on? There's a competing interest. There's something you don't know about, but it's a blocker. And this is not negative, and the word sounds bad, but it's true. People have hidden agendas. People don't always tell you everything they know, they need, or they feel. But it can still be a very big driver for their actions, or inactions for that matter. And so really kind of developing multiple questions. I'm just going to pause right there, and I'm going to ask you guys, like, if you were getting to a point where you were needing to like ask more questions, and this is for everybody else, so don't hold back because you cheat the group and you don't do it. Now these are just a couple. Is it misinformation? Is it miscommunication? Hidden agendas? What else are things that kind of drive a conflict or an issue? What are some of the other questions you ask yourself as leaders? Ask yourselves as leaders. Anybody? Heather, I'm gonna volunteer.
Yeah, I think it happens when like we have a hot button issue that's a sensitive place for us, and whether we're aware of it or not. If someone says something that presses that button, it has its whole consequence of emotions that comes with it.
That's absolutely right. And what do you do when you know it's a hot button for you?
I acknowledge to myself that that was my hot button and the other person didn't do it. That was my issue.
Good. That's good. And that's the first, I will tell you, as a recovering insecure person, the first thing I do when I feel threatened, I ain't lying, that's the truth. I mean, honestly, literally, I live that way because I know I'm insecure. And the reason I have to say as a recovering insecure person is because this thing doesn't go away. It's always under the surface. And so the enemy knows that about me, and he'll push me and move me in ways that try to make me feel that feeling again. And so sometimes I can get in that posture, and I have to stop, pause, ask myself, is this me? And do the introspection. And sometimes I don't re-engage for a couple of days, not out of anger, but because I've got to process it and make sure. And again, if it's me, I got to own my part. So that's a great point. What else? What other questions? Is it me?
I think I have to stop and ask myself, am I focusing on this person personally or their behavior?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can separate those two things, then I can be more objective looking at the behavior
That's good, Carol.
rather than them personally and judging them.
No, that's good. That's good. Troy, I know you. Don't hold back. You got a ton of wisdom. Give it up.
Well, this fits one of the situations we were involved with this week, where one of the key members of a team we were mentoring had done a listening tour of board members, and the key operations person was also in the meeting. And as we listened to this person who had done a listening tour, the other guy was not talking at all. He was just sitting there silently. And so we engaged him in some questions, and come to find out, the day-to-day operations were completely different than this other person. And so we began to wonder, and we think this other person has a hidden agenda. It's not a bad agenda. It's just different than what is really going on in the organization. So there's misinformation, misunderstanding from the two key leaders in this organization. And I guess our fear is it's going to keep them from going forward. They're going to sit there and sort of, one's over this way and one's over that way. They're just not going to come together and lock arms and go forward together so long as they're in such divergent. And so I don't think they intend to oppose each other, but it was clear to us. There's a couple of other mentors in the group with me that day, but it was clear to all of us that they were not on the same page at all.
That's a great segue. He said it like at least 5 times, and it is the most important aspect of this. Listen. In the assessment process, the most important thing to do, particularly if it's hot and it's that critical, listen. Ask questions, close your mouth, listen. If you can't, if it's so critical or the person that you're engaging with won't engage with you, have others ask questions. There are times when you need to bring in a third party and let them go ask questions. And then when they bring you the answers back, listen. Because that is the key and most critical piece. And it's really where we lose people. People feel respected and valued when you listen. It doesn't even mean you're going to be on exactly one person's agenda or the other person's agenda. But by listening, you can find a way forward. But you have to listen. And as you're listening, understanding the real issue, Troy nailed it. 2 different competing agendas, ultimately. But I'm sure those 2 individuals had locked horns and are mad at each other. They probably don't really, it may be some conflict when they're interacting, because if they're on polar opposites, you can feel the tension. I've had folks on my team who, it wasn't good to even have them in the same room. I've had folks on my team who didn't want to deal with the leader because it was
Alisa, it was Christian conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, but we don't say anything about it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a great point. And I'm on the other end of the meter in that I just will do it. I'll just talk about it. I wish I could probably more or less not talk about it, but that is also, like when we're trying to be all nice and on our P's and our Q's, don't do that. It doesn't serve anyone, and it's really not true. It's false humility. That's really what it is. It's false humility. It's not true humility, and you aren't solving anything, and you aren't helping anything when you do that. Now, what you want to do, and I'm still rehearsing, help me, Jesus, speak the truth in love. I mean, it's a constant, because I'm a real truth girl. It's my greatest strength, but it can also be my greatest weakness. Because I just want to deal with the truth. What is it? Let's just deal with it. Some people think it's confrontation. I just want to go for it. I don't want to let it hang. I don't want it to be out there. I want to move on. So for me, I need to spend more time listening. And for the person who's not as comfortable speaking their truth, they need to spend more time sharing what they really are, and then listening to the other party, because there may just literally be a misunderstanding. And when you reach that place, after you've listened and you recognize where you are, and particularly where Troy is talking about, where there's 2 polar opposites, as you're seeking to find, and the goal, you're the leader, find the middle ground. Unless it's wrong. If it's immoral, if it's wrong, if it, financially you just can't do it, you still have to find a way to bring the person toward the middle. But there literally will be, I believe there are more opportunities than not to find a middle ground. I think we put our stake in the ground, we put our flag in the ground because it's our idea, we said it, or somebody agreed to it, and it may have been relevant 6 months ago, but fast forward 6 months, it's no longer relevant. Why are we holding on to it? Don't die on that hill. When you recognize that it's a true issue, try to find the middle. And as the leader, it's your responsibility to be able to do that. And so in the listening space, particularly because our natural inclination, my natural inclination, is to react, respond. But if you can just hold on and listen. And again, if you need to engage a third party, because sometimes I need somebody else to listen. Have you ever hung up the phone and called somebody else and said, can you help me with this? I just had this conversation, but I'm struggling. Did I miss something? So sometimes you also need to engage somebody else, because depending on how long the issue has been there, how much conflict is already in place, the person may not be able to hear from you. So you may need an objective third party, that counseling thing. We all know about it in our personal space, but sometimes we need counseling at work. I mean, literally, to be able to work together, to go forward together. The ultimate thing you want to reach, and again, that middle, is fairness and objective measures. You want to be fair in the middle. It doesn't even mean, now I've seen some folks who are in leadership positions who will totally give up even what is the right way or what the goal is because they don't want conflict with the team. I had this director, and he was over a call center. And when he got any opposition from the team, he would immediately fold because he wanted to be liked by the team. And I was like, but that is not the mission of this organization. And that is not what we tell our funders we do. And that is not how we tell our funders we handle our business. And we are accountable to those people who support us. And honestly, we're accountable to the people we serve. We wrote this plan, we took this path because we said we wanted to help people in this way. So we can't abandon that mission because someone doesn't want to do that. So how do we bring everybody together to help understand too? This is important because I can tell you probably one of the most difficult things, and if you were, at least in the nonprofit world I worked in, what was changing very rapidly and was very difficult in the nonprofit world was being accountable and showing measurable change, showing outcomes. And I can also say this, and I'm gonna just say it from my frame, no offense to anyone. In my frame, where I worked, the people I was working with, the most uncomfortable, everything was touchy-feely. What we feel and we love, well, that's great, but we gotta have some outcomes if we wanna get a check from Miss Erica Mitchell. We want some money from over there, we have to have some results. We need to get a report together. And we cannot just touch and feel. It has to be measurable. We need some SMART goals. They need to be what? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. We gotta have them, and we gotta have them today. And then we gotta follow through, because we can all write those goals down, but look, ma'am, you are on the front line, you are the operator, and you are taking that call. I have to have you check all the boxes of all the resources you offer, because I have to tell people what you offer. Or if somebody comes back and tells you that they actually followed through on the things that you said and they are no longer cutting themselves and they are no longer harming themselves, I need you to mark that down and I need you to put it in the report about the outcome of your therapy. Why? Because I want to retain your position. And my funder wants to know that what we do is effective. Sometimes it's that. It literally is that. Because they think it's another box, it's another thing that I've got to do, another task. I don't really need another task. And it's like, but we want to be here, right? And honestly, here's the thing, and I will say this, you know, there's a lot of other, here's the meeting after the meeting. They're going down the hall going, everybody just cares about data. No. Because here's the truth of it. If we don't analyze and assess what we do, how do we know we're effective? You know, I want Miss Erica's money, but I also want to know that really what we did is effective. Because if not, guess what? We need to do something different. So really understanding that and helping people understand it and moving people to that. And then when you bring it to the fairness piece is, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the people we serve. And the people we are accountable to. We're accountable to our funders and the people we serve. So we have to know what we're doing. Finding that middle place. And then there is the best alternative negotiated agreement. And this can be with customers, and this can be with individuals. It's literally, this is going to be your break point. This is my takeaway. What was it? I can't remember the movie. What Wall Street, I think it was. It was your takeaway. It's when you're leaving the table. It's that moment. And you have to also have that, because I have also had leaders who negotiate to a nosebleed. And it's like, we have to move on, people. We have to make a decision. You know, wanting to, consensus building is important, but at some point, the negotiations have to end and we have to make a decision. And so, you want your best alternative negotiated agreement, because if you can't get them to the desired middle where everybody is satisfied, what is going to be the outcome? Where do you draw the line? For some people, it is literally, you know, my retired while working person, if I can't motivate them back to work, you know, and we've done everything. I've done the talk, I've done the training, I've done the corrective action plan, We've got them resources. We know they know how to do their job. We know they know where to do their job. We know they have goals and measurable objectives. We know they know the expectations of them. If I still can't move that person, if they will not move toward the middle of fairness, and that is doing their job for which they're paid, the best alternative agreement is they probably might have to go. See how I did that? Probably might have to go. But that's literally it. And for sometimes for the customer, it might be your service costs $50. And you all are at, and you know at $50, I can deliver this service and I can have this margin of profit, and it is what we need toward our bottom line. And you know you can't take 40. And your customer is, your client is a miser and wants to give you 30. At some point you have to say, okay, here is my best and final offer, and here is why. You give all the details about why. And you may have to do your takeaway. But it also makes you more confidently negotiate. If you have already thought about what's going to be your takeaway, and it's not in a negative way, but you have to know what is not acceptable. But if you've already thought about that, it very much helps you too as you move through the process. You want to be thinking clear-headed, strategic as you're going through this process. And most importantly, you're the leader. You have to. That's what you're going to be asked to do. And again, back to Troy, and it's the most important piece in this. Show respect, listen. Show respect and listen. The last couple of bullets, and we kind of talked about this, but literally I said, let's go to, because sometimes, particularly when you get to lead, you may reach this place where, okay, I'm the leader and I have the answers, or I'm the leader and I can't not have the answers because then people will think I'm not the leader or I'm not capable of leading. All misnomers. Mm-hmm. The Lord tells us there's wisdom in the counsel of the multitude. Mm-hmm. And as a leader, again, you have your boards, but you also need people you are walking with that are invested in you specifically, that will tell you the truth. Don't have a bunch of people who will just tell you what you want to hear. You need truth tellers in that circle. But you need wise people too. You need people with experience who maybe know something about what you're doing, who can advise you and guide you. But don't neglect that. And that's just kind of it. Just create your own personal board. They make role models from the past, individuals whose opinions you respect. I told you this room is full of my board here today. Thank you. Thank you for coming. My board is here. And just know that they're going to be there for you to answer the questions you have. And these are the kind of questions you can say. Basically, what do you think about the situation? When you get with your board, have some real questions and be honest, and again, be objective and give the whole story, not just one side. There's two sides to every story. Bring both sides, please. It helps your board. Got to be honest. And then at the end of the day, and this kind of goes back to knowing where your best alternative agreement is. Some things you heard from the king. Some things are non-negotiable. We live in a society that is having a serious moment of moral consciousness, and that ball is moving. What we used to know was clearly wrong has now become popular culture and acceptable. I don't know about you, and I'm just going to say it because I'm a true person. Lying is not good, and alternative facts are not true. And the fact that the highest office in this nation will stand up and tell us we can have alternative facts, the ball has moved. Something has changed. And the fact that it got that far, meaning America would allow that. And I'm not talking anything about acumen, I'm not talking anything about who should, I am talking about merely that. The belief that an alternate truth to tell people and hold it up as truth is okay, is never okay. So as a leader, there will be things that are happening in your organization and you have to stand firm. I'm going to tell you, if I was working in that office, the day that note came out, I get my stuff. That's my break point. when my moral compass is violated, when I can no longer follow the leader and do what is right based on my conscience, be it the board, when I can no longer perform this job because my conscience doesn't agree because morally we're out of order, you got to stand firm. You stand firm. Stand for truth. When it's wrong, it's wrong. When it's not okay, it's not okay. And you might get the heck beat out of you in the process. I have a very dear friend, and she recently left her office. And when I tell you she was on in the paper and in the news all the time, people lied. People said she was breaking the law. People said she was moving money. People said she was doing all kinds of foolishness. But she stood firm. Her reputation to some people may be damaged, but she never left her spot. She had death threats. Her husband literally said, "Today you leave, that's it." And she said, "No, not like this." And you know why? Because she knew what God had called her to. She knew her purpose. She knew the vision. She knew what the Lord had asked her to walk out, and she could not walk away until He said so. And so sometimes it's going to be like that. You will have negotiated. I can tell you this. I had the pleasure of also going to her going away party. And I can tell you, I know what I heard on the television and I know what I read in the paper. But when I tell you I went to her going away party, and there are about 7 members of her staff that got up and spoke. This woman changed the DNA of this organization. When I tell you her staff getting up to speak, presented, and I thought she was talking, they had her language. She transformed a system that serves people, and that's what it was all about. Now, it came at a high cost to her. It came at a high cost to her personally. Don't think there wasn't stress. Don't think there wasn't sleepless nights. Don't think there weren't those moments where she was like, "Well, wait a minute, is it really okay?" But no matter what, because she is a courageous leader, she stood under the fire because she knew what she was doing was right. And if you find yourself in that place, if you're sitting in those seats, if you're in those conversations, remember who you are. You're courageous leaders. It is in your DNA. It is part of your call. It is your responsibility. And the King is looking for you to stand up and do the right thing no matter what. And it might not end well. But that's okay because He has a plan for you. He knew it before He formed you in your mother's womb. And it is a plan for good. A plan to bless you and prosper you. Stay the course. Listen. Love. I probably didn't say enough of this because I'm so much truth. In most of this, the most important thing is the people. It is the relationships. It is who you walk with, who you are alongside. They are the most important thing. Love them well. Listen to them. Lead them well. But do what God has called you to do. And do it well. And in a loving way. And learn to negotiate. And find middle ground. And learn to listen. And you'll be all right. There's always going to be challenge. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be trouble. As long as you're living, as long as you're in the fight, as long as you are doing, there will be. The moment it stops, get concerned because the enemy has forgotten about you, which means it's probably not good in your life. You know, God will give you seasons of spring, but most of the time when it's quiet, check yourself. What are you doing? Are you standing up for anything? Are you doing anything of work? Are you doing anything of value? Have you gone to all the things God's called you to? And that's all I got to say about it. Love you guys. So respect you. And know you'll do well. You can ask me any questions you want to at any time.